Hey fam, so today I'm going to be sharing with you how astrology actually destroyed my life less than a year ago. But don't worry, there is a happy ending. Welcome to Create Compassion. I'm Lexi, and here we talk about mental health, mental illness, and being a Christian. Okay, so we'll start from the beginning. I got really into astrology in college. I talked about it all the time with my friends. We were really into our zodiac signs and our different personalities based on our zodiac signs. And honestly, we just talked about it a lot. I had almost every free, well-known, popular astrology app. One was called The Pattern, one was called Sanctuary, another one was called CoStar, and the only reason I'm telling you the name of all of these apps is because I want to encourage you to delete them, especially if you're a Christian. Kinda obviously, this entire video is about how astrology destroyed my life, but I kind of want to get into why it's so bad first. And again, I want to encourage all of you who believe in God, who believe in Jesus, to stray away, break off astrology because it's not Christian at all. Anyways, so I've always identified as a Christian ever since I was born, essentially, but I never really read any parts of my Bible significantly until the end of 2020. And here's the thing with Christianity, it's a relationship. It's a relationship with God. What I've learned recently is you can't just say you're a Christian because you believe in Jesus, because you believe He's the Son of God here to save you. There's actually more to being a Christian than just believing. Again, it really is a relationship, and just like with any other relationship, you need to put an effort into it. Otherwise, it's not a relationship and you're not a Christian. There's, again, a difference between believing in God and actually loving Him and wanting to be a part of it all. And to do that, we need to listen to Him, especially with the bigger things like not believing other belief systems, other religions, kind of like astrology. Now you might be thinking astrology isn't religion and astrology isn't a god that competes with God. It's definitely not at all. It's not a religion, it's not a god, but it is an idol and it can be experienced by a lot of people as if it were a religion. Obviously, there's so much more to religion than like the dictionary definition, but on a very technical level, religions are belief systems, and so is astrology. And the dangerous part about my life, even less than a year ago, was that I cared more about astrology than I cared about my own Christian faith. And I will say too that once I broke away from astrology, then only then would I have ever considered myself truly to be a Christian. I just didn't know it until I broke away from astrology. And one of the biggest indicators that I wasn't a Christian was that I loved astrology so much. God does tell us to love Him. That's His first and foremost and most crucial commandment, guys. And throughout the entire Bible, God wants people to worship Him, to love Him, to consider Him as the only God worth worshiping, the only belief system worth believing. God tells us that He's a jealous God. God tells us that He doesn't want us giving in to any other belief systems. He tells us so concisely and clearly throughout the Bible how to love Him. And again, loving Him is the greatest commandment. And He actually warns against astrology in a few parts too. So there's a lot He's instructed us to do that goes against astrology, and so you honestly can't be both. A really big lie that I would tell myself was that I was both Christian and into astrology, but you really can't be both, because if you're into astrology, you're showing God that there are other belief systems competing with your faith to Him, so you're not loving Him. And if you're truly a Christian and you want to have a good relationship with God, you're not going to want to have any other belief systems in your life. Take Christianity and Hinduism, for example. You can't really say you're both because they're both such conflicting big major religions. It's kind of crazy to even think about someone saying I'm this religion and that religion and just accepting it. And another thing that's so dangerous about astrology is that it doesn't overlap super much with Christianity. Therefore, it is really easy for us to tell ourselves and convince ourselves that we are both. We are both into astrology, we like it, we enjoy it, and we're Christians. But guys, like I said, that is a huge lie. If God isn't the only ruling factor, and if He isn't the only belief system essentially that you have in your life, you're not Christian. But anyway, let's get to the point about how astrology actually ruined my life, because it really, really did. So throughout 2020, obviously the pandemic took a toll on a lot of us. It really caused a lot of us to isolate. And I know I'm not the only one whose mental health was greatly negatively impacted by everything going on in the world. But I was also going through a lot of mental distress from my mental illness. I have bipolar type 2, so I actually was playing around with medications because one side effect was really kind of dragging me down all the time. I felt like a zombie, so I stopped taking one of my most important medications. But other than that, I was relying on these horoscope apps every single day to kind of uplift me or make me feel better. I wasn't sleeping. I was literally spending all my time essentially feeling massive amounts of anxiety and depression. The worst part about that was that it was kind of all together. Normally, when you're going through bipolar cycling, you experience mania and depression, but I was kind of having it all in one. So I was having insomnia and extreme anxiety, but I was also feeling super depressed and down on myself all together. Yet I looked forward to the days or maybe even weeks where my stars said that things would be better. And throughout that time, I thought the days were better if I had a better horoscope. But the thing is, looking back on it now, those days were just as equally bad as every single other day. But I was so blind to it because I had this belief system. I was relying on my own understanding, a human derived belief system to uplift me, to pull me out of this awful circumstance I was in. Anyway, someone very close to me in my life told me, Lexi, read your Bible, like stop listening to astrology, stop doing all of that, stop getting your chart read, stop it all, start reading the Bible. And so I finally did. And it wasn't until I started praying more, reading the Bible, and spending time, authentic time with Christ, with God. It was only then when I was able to actually start seeing a shift in my mental health. It was actually right around my birthday, and I just remember on my birthday, I was in such a dark place. I had an awful breakdown, I had an awful anxiety attack, and the next day, I started reading the Bible, and I suddenly felt this peace I hadn't felt in months. Only God can bring to us the goodness we are searching for, truly. We can't rely on our own measures and our own made-up belief systems to pull us out of darkness. Only God can do that because only He is 100% good. And it wasn't long after that moment, too, that I started having different treatment methods. My doctor actually was like, hey, let's try this other medication. We'll see if this helps. And it did. But I didn't have the power to do that. Only God makes those moves happen. Only God can really, again, pull us out of whatever we're going through. I think that we as humans very unintentionally bring a lot of darkness upon ourselves, especially when we don't believe or trust in God. And again, believing in Him, having a relationship is really the key to it all. God speaks to us and does as much for us often as we give to Him. So if we're not spending any time saying a big amount of prayers, if we're not reading the Bible, if we're not nurturing our relationship with Him, then honestly, we're kind of SOL there. We can't give in to spending more time with false idols or even just any time with any other belief systems when they're not God. This video is really for anyone who identifies as both Christian and into astrology, because again, you can't be both, and I want your life to be better, and it can't be better until you ditch the astrology, okay? And another thing I worried about when I was ditching astrology, when I was cutting it completely out of my life, was that I did kind of believe in it. So how was I just gonna stop believing in it? And I think the power comes from just not wanting to anymore. The power comes from avoiding it, from cutting it out, from scrolling past the horoscopes on social media. Just scroll past them. God will help you discredit astrology when you come to Him, when you don't want it anymore in your life. You might not be going through something as dark and horrific as I went through last year, but that doesn't mean your life can't be better if you still quit astrology right now, today, or tomorrow. I truly believe that if you cut astrology out of your life, God is going to make it better. And again, sometimes there's growing pains. I went through a lot of growing pains, but actually they stopped essentially once I gave up astrology. But there might be growing pains, there might not be. Honestly, if you're like me, you would just immediately see this huge shift in your life once you give your full belief and love to God. You know, I think it's a really dangerous trap a lot of us have fallen into as Christians, because astrology is everywhere and it is so popular and widely accepted as like this normal thing. Like, I literally can't go on Snapchat without seeing my horoscope, and I disabled everything, but it still pops up that I'm, you know, my zodiac type, and I get so annoyed with it. And it is a minor inconvenience, but it just, you know, it goes to show that we really can't avoid all the things that God does not want us to indulge in. And another thing I'll say is God created you, and he created the stars and planets. And when someone is really into astrology, when I was really into astrology, you believe that the placements of the planets and the stars all impact you in some way. But guys, God literally created them too. Why don't we just believe in him? Why don't you just give your love and full belief and attention to him? I mean, God also created fish, and are we gonna believe that every time the salmon swims upstream, my love life is gonna get so much better? No, that's honestly so silly. Like, only God can make your life so much better. Only God is here. Only God is what we should be believing in as Christians. Anyways, I hope this video taught you something new and inspired you to build your relationship with God and cut out astrology out of your life for good. And I know if you're like me and you would have seen this video probably, you know, a year or two ago, like me, you will probably take this video with a grain of salt, but I will tell you this: God does not lose any one of his sheep, so he will find a way to pull you back if you are unwilling right now. If you're like me, you might go through a really chaotic, dark period in your life, and I'm not trying to scare you or anything, but if you really want to be a Christian, but you're really into astrology, God is going to find a way to pull you back to him one way or another. Nonetheless, even if you're just into astrology and you're not a Christian or you don't believe in God right now, I will give you this tip. Obviously, you can believe whatever you want. I'm not here to necessarily change your beliefs. Again, this video is for Christians who are into astrology. But I will say that anyone can have a relationship with God. Anyone can have a relationship with Christ. And to have this relationship, we just need to work at it ourselves. That's all we really need to do. God will make his part of the relationship hold through always. You just need to do your part too. Please like this video if you learned anything, or if you just liked it in general. And if you want to see more videos on Christianity and mental health, please subscribe. We're a small channel right now, but we're growing. So any support helps. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.